So, on today's show, we'll be discussing really what the Culinary Institute is like and how do you get smart on all things being a chef. Hopefully, hear some kitchen nightmare stories from Joe. Really excited to hear about some of that. Advice at home cooks. Really, how do we get better at home? Easy cooking methods and tools, and advice to maybe some young chefs out there. So, really looking forward to talking to Joe. But before we get into it, Dom, are you rocking a cocktail like we typically do on Mondays? What do you got going on?
This is a Negroni, pretty established drink. I think it comes from Italy. It is gin, dry vermouth, and Campari.
Mm,
And I was making these previously with Aperol, and I think I like it better with Aperol
I
than
agree.
Campari.
April, well, Campari is the cherry, right? And Aperol is more the orange. Is that like the flavor difference?
I have no idea. I was
Yeah.
gonna do a shot of them just side by side just to see which one is different, but
Party.
maybe next week it'll just be the shots.
I'm doing the Aperol. We got the Aperol kind of faux spritz going on. We had a open bottle of champagne that we gotta get rid of. So made Lindsay's favorite cocktail, Aperol spritz.
How long was it open for?
It's in the fridge. It's still, it's a twist off. It's a twist off. So when I opened it,
Unidentifiable.
there was carbonation. So
Okay.
that was good. Yeah, we'll take it. It's not flat. So
Yeah. You ever pop open a champagne bottle with a knife?
I have not had the balls to do that. I am pretty good at popping it open, like where it doesn't spray everywhere. I don't know how
Oh,
people
that's
are
part of
so.
the fun, though. Honestly, I like shaking it up, and then
I remember at your grad party, I think in Portland, right? You guys
yeah,
were popping champagne everywhere. That was a lot of fun.
yeah. I mean, it was Andre, but it still got the job done.
Yeah, listen, take it. It's for the show, it's for the gram anyway.
Cool, cool. Yeah. So let's introduce Joe. Joe, why don't you say hi to everybody?
Hi, how's it going, people?
We want to welcome you to the podcast. You're our second guest, so hopefully we're gonna have a great show.
Yeah, I'm honored.
Joe, is that a Chris? Joe, is that a Christmas tree you got hanging up behind there?
That is, yeah. There's been some debate about what's the appropriate time to put up a Christmas tree, but just to riff off of the cocktail of the week, I don't have a cocktail. I actually have work at my side gig, which we'll get into later. But in the same theme as my Christmas tree behind me, I have a little delirium
Oh, that's
Noel.
cool.
It's pretty good. They're a Belgian beer company, and they're pretty strong. I think Justin, you're familiar with that brand, right?
Yeah.
You've had them.
Yeah, I don't know why they're so exclusive. I feel like, and so for all the viewers here, going to be who can't see the screen, right? It's that white bottle. It's got that famous elephant on the top. So
Yeah.
I think I sell them in 4 packs usually, or something like that.
So yeah, that's just real quick. One thing, I bought a 4 pack, a little like handheld 4 pack thing of that the other day. $28.
$40.
Yeah, see?
$28.
Dude,
$28.
insane.
Like they're
How big are
10%
the beers?
alcohol, but I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
How big are the beers?
They're less than a pint size. Like they're not like because if you get those 4 packs of IPAs where like each can is a pint, I could understand like the $25 price, but like that
Still,
was
dude, that's like
Joe.
what you would get at a brewery.
Yeah.
Like $7 a beer.
Right. Joe, listen to this. We went to the city on Friday night. We went to Ralph's, which is a German beer hall in the city that is always decorated like Christmas lights. So your
That's
tree would
awesome.
fit right in. So shit ton of lights like everywhere. It's super hot because all the lights are bearing down on you. So we just ordered 2 drinks at the bar. Not expecting much. I get the bill, $62 for 2 cocktails. Needless to say, we closed out our tab and went somewhere else. Like highway robbery. We're literally paying the electric bill. Ridiculous.
That's
What was the place
probably
called
that
again?
looks really cool.
Ralph's?
That's probably the worst I've ever heard. That's like $30
That's
a
pretty
cocktail.
bad, right? Yeah.
Dude,
I mean, it's a
that's
cool
what I was
vibe.
saying.
You got the one IG photo and then we're out, right? Like it was definitely a tourist trap.
I was kind of
Like,
making fun of them where I'm like, oh, you picked like kind of Christmassy time to go to this year-round
yeah,
Christmas
I know.
bar.
It's a year-round Christmas bar. We went in November, but Joe, we went to Italy Friday night, which was awesome.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I had a friend who used to work there. I was actually the sous chef there.
Nice. So good. So
Yeah.
good.
Shoot. All right. Well, let's get into it right now, right? So, Joe, you are the only friend of mine that is a professional chef. which I think is pretty fucking cool, man. Myself and Justin both love to cook. We watch plenty of cooking videos. We don't really have many skills, and no one really taught us how to cook. Kind of just picked it up, from watching stuff. But, you've been doing this now. How long have you been a chef for?
Well, so I went to culinary school in 2018, like early 2018. So it's been longer than I actually thought. That's a good 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and what was going through school like? Like, how many years was it?
So it was only a full year. A large part of it was like actual in classroom. Obviously, the nature of this business, it was mostly hands-on sort of stuff in terms of like your tests and things like that. There were written exams and obviously information that they wanted you to know, but a lot of it was being able to perform and being able to perform, which is one of the most important things in the kitchen, is to perform consistently. Because it's one thing to be able to just look up a recipe at home and make the perfect dish or whatever, but the main difference that I think for people who are not aware or whatever is doing it professionally means that you have to be able to do that dish perfectly multiple times in well, more than multiple times. Like, we're talking dozens and dozens of time in a single night, and put everything out in the same high quality that people are expecting.
Yeah, I'm always amazed on how people can just get it right. Like, you go to a restaurant and you get like the hanger steak, and it's the same every time, and it's just
Yeah.
equally as delicious every time. And
Yeah.
I'm always amazed at that. So, did you always want to do this, or where did this spark come from? Because going through high school, like, I don't remember you particularly, like, experimenting too much in the kitchen, and then when you were at school for a little bit, you didn't go through culinary stuff. So how did that come about?
Yeah, I mean, all of my jobs throughout my entire life. I mean, I started working in a deli, I think, when I was 13 years old. So really, for the most part, I never had a job that wasn't involved in the food industry or the food service industry in some way. And it was something I did all the way through college and even afterwards. And really, where I guess it kind of hit me was when I was working at Talenti's. That was like kind of my first experience, because I had followed a friend of mine, and who was also the head chef at the place you mentioned earlier, Grace's Marketplace, which had like a little. They started doing a lunch and like a dinner sort of boutique. It wasn't like a full restaurant, but they had a dinner service there, and this guy was the head chef for them. And he ended up leaving, and a few months down the line, he hit me up and was like, "I'm opening up my own place in Bayville. I'd really like you to come work for me." So I kind of hightailed it out of there and followed him to Bayville. I was there for a good 2 years, I want to say, and that was like the first person who gave me the opportunity to, instead of just slicing deli meats and making sandwiches or whatever, he really gave me the opportunity to cook with him in the back of the house and make everything from simple stuff, the chicken cutlets, grilled vegetables, to chickpea salads, and all this stuff for like the prepared food section that he had. And I think from there, a big part of it, so I guess I'll just get into this right now. A main reason why I wanted to transition from that was, with working in those types of places, there's a big customer service aspect to it. And that's something that I do not enjoy. Like, I don't, it's exhausting to me to have to put on that act and be like, "Hey, how you doing today? Like, what can I get for you?" Like, it's just, after a while, it's very draining to have to put on that front and serve people face to face. So I thought the best alternative to that would be the complete opposite of going literally to what they call the back of the house, where you're not dealing with anybody. The customers complain, they have to take it up with the waiter, and there's a little bit of a barrier between you and the demanding customers, if you will.
Right.
So
Yeah, it lets you kind of do your own thing without having to put up with their bullshit.
yeah.
That sounds definitely up your alley more.
Yeah.
But it's good that you got that experience, at Grace's, where a lot of times, I hear about people, they get into cooking and they wind up just like chopping onions, like all day, every day. They're just chopping onions. They're like peeling oranges or some crap like that. So it's nice that you had so many responsibilities there that you got to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
So that was at Grace's, and then you went to go work at the Big Daddy Morimoto. Justin and I are big Iron Chef fans, so we were pretty excited when we heard that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was my longest stay at a professional kitchen, whatever, and it was definitely an interesting experience. So that was directly after culinary school, and I kind of alluded to that earlier. The actual culinary school program was about like 8 months, 8 or 9 months, and then you were required, while you were still technically in school, you were required to do what's called like a stage, or like it's spelled like the English word stage, and I think in French it means basically like an apprentice or something along those lines. It's essentially an internship for culinary school where the benefit to that with culinary school is that it would get you into some big name places that just would be tough to get your foot in the door, kind of. So doing it on your stageship, sometimes they were paid internships, sometimes they were unpaid. Mine luckily was a paid internship, and you basically kind of go and just go through the trials, and if by the end of the couple months, if they want to actually full-time hire you, then you get hired. And that's basically how that goes. So that was Morimoto was where I did my staging. And yeah, everything kind of worked out. I got along with the people there, and they ended up taking me on full time. So I was there for about 2 years, and the experience was definitely interesting. I met Chef Morimoto himself, I want to say 2 or 3 times. He's an interesting character. He's very intimidating. He would randomly show up sometimes during the middle of dinner service and walk through the kitchen, and
shit.
he'd see I literally witnessed him. It was one of the most interesting dynamics in the kitchen is when you're dealing with somebody like, for example, your head chef or the executive chef who is the almighty, sort of intimidating person who's running the show day in and day out. And then you have somebody like Morimoto, who is, I don't know if namesake, I don't know if that's the right term, or the basically the big boss. And to see him walk through the kitchen and just, rip apart this guy, the head chef, who's been ripping me apart for the last year and a half. And, it's just, that's an interesting dynamic to see, like, somebody else just come in and basically, put down this guy who has been kind of instilling fear into everybody else for so long. And that's something I've witnessed a couple times with different people, but so that was interesting to see.
I couldn't even imagine that, man. I see what's the Gordon Ramsay show, Kitchen Nightmare or something like that. Where he's walking through, he's just berating people, and just Morimoto. He just has that intimidating presence by him. Obviously I've never met him, but he's a pretty big dude. No, he seems like a big guy.
He is. He's he's not short. He's taller than he looks, I think, on camera and stuff like that.
Big Japanese dude, ponytail. Feel like, oh shit.
No, he came through one time, and there was a dish which it was actually on my station that I was making. I didn't particularly care for it. I thought it was kind of weird, but it was I'm going to blank on the name of what the dish was actually called, but essentially it was just oysters that we would throw into the steamer for about 20 seconds or whatever, just quick flash steam them. And we would put they were called oyster foie gras. So we would sear a tiny piece of foie gras and then put that on top of the steamed oyster. Wait, it gets worse. And put a spoonful of our homemade teriyaki sauce that I had to make. So it was teriyaki on an oyster with foie gras and a couple other garnishes. I thought it was disgusting.
Sounds like the weirdest texture.
Those things just
a lot of flavor.
Yeah, a lot of those things clash, in my opinion. But so he came through the kitchen one night, and we was demanding to know who put that on the menu, and it was the executive chef, like I referred to before, who was this kind of intimidating guy himself. We had a good relationship, and I still maintain a relationship with him. But it was just interesting to see him barge through the kitchen and demand to know why this was on the menu in his restaurant. This is disgusting. And that guy had to admit, like, yeah, chef, like that was my creation. Like I put that on the menu or whatever. So it was
just shitting on it.
kind of funny.
He's probably
see,
just
yeah.
like, oh, it tastes so good. He's like, these guys are gonna love it.
Yeah.
When it comes in, he's like, who made this?
Yeah. That restaurant was a little bit more corporate, so there was like a little bit more of like a menu that they had to adhere to, but there were also a lot of like, seasonal specials and things like that. And I think that was one that he had been running for a long time, but Chef Morimoto was not a fan of it either. So
do they not do like tests like beforehand? The guy just rolls this out.
They will in house, and then there's like the larger sort, like I said, like corporate menu that I think are items that have to be on every, because at that time there were multiple Morimoto locations. They have a Philadelphia location and then the one in Soho, Manhattan. Which that, I guess I'll talk about that now. That location that I worked at has since closed down. Not necessarily because of COVID. It actually all happened, just crazy enough, it all happened right around the same time where the COVID lockdown started happening. Obviously, we know a lot of restaurants, the restaurant industry as a whole changed completely. A lot of places closed down. They didn't make it. But prior to that, like, no joke, a couple months before that, we got news that we were actually going to be closing down regardless. I think Google bought that building that we were working in. It was like a giant, like, sort of warehouse sort of complex that was on the end of the Chelsea market. So we were on like the back end, the south end of the Chelsea market, and that entire like building strip that we were working out of was bought, I think, by Google, that we're going to turn it into like a giant office building. So that was inevitable that they were actually closing down there. And then obviously the whole COVID thing happened, and yeah.
So Joe, like, so Morimoto, Iron Chef, right? Which is interesting. So like that's our perception of this guy. You obviously have a very different perception. Just curious, like, are there any movies or shows that probably the public has seen that get it right, or is it all just Hollywood, like what we've seen?
So in terms of like shows, and I wouldn't say movies. Excuse me. We can cut that out. In terms of shows, I've always said since I started culinary school and actually working in the field, I've had the most respect out of all the celebrity chefs is Gordon Ramsay for me. He's the most like accurate depiction, and just from watching him, and also knowing his backstory, he still to this day runs some of his own restaurants, and he's very hands-on. And he's a celebrity chef who actually grinded it out and worked in the industry, working on the line in the actual back of the house of a restaurant for decades before becoming an actual celebrity.
Right.
So he's somebody that I have a lot more respect for in that regard, just because he's actually lived it. And something I guess I mentioned earlier about like, then you have people who I'm sure they're great cooks, but like Rachel Ray and like Ina Gardner, who I know Dom is a big fan of, they're all fine and they have great great dishes.
Talking about Contessa right now.
No, so, but to my point earlier is when you're at home or you're on a set like Rachel Ray where everything is prepped for you and you're literally just making that apple pie one time for a TV show is way different than having to make a blackened salmon 100 times in one night consistently, plating it and doing all this stuff, kind of like I said before, with that same standard of excellency, basically. So yeah, but to answer your question, a show that I actually got super into during culinary school was Hell's Kitchen with Gordon Ramsay, and that show, for me, I think it resonated so much with me during that time because I was watching it and it felt like that's what I was going through. And it kind of, in a way, almost gave me the strength to go through with the stress of, these these hands-on like tests and things like that we were doing in culinary school, getting yelled at by a bunch of French guys who have super high standards and stuff like that. Um, that that was a sign to me that like, okay, this is the real deal. Like this show.
Right.
I don't know if either of you have watched Hell's Kitchen. That's more of his like reality show where they So
Yeah, I've seen the cool clips, and I saw this one guy. I don't know. I guess he created one of Gordon's signature dishes in like a very short amount of time, whatever it was. It's like 30 minutes, and it came out like it's cool. He's so famous, at least in my eyes, as being this angry guy, right?
Yeah.
And then when he like approves of something, I can imagine like talk about your moment right in the sun, like you
Yeah.
get Gordon Ramsay's approval.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool, man. So how like I don't know if you mentioned how big was your class, like your culinary class?
I want to say it was maybe only 50 or so
Okay,
people in one class. There was multiple
gotcha.
classes going on at a time. There was also a full we had a pastry program there, so people who were just going for baking or to be a pastry chef, as well as like a sommelier program and a bunch of other things all going on in that building at the same
Wow.
time. Yeah.
So like I guess in at Morimoto, it feels like majority of folks were professionally trained, but maybe in other restaurants that's not always the case.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think actually my executive chef, he never went to culinary school
Wow.
at Morimoto. So, I think there's actually probably a lot more people who just kind of start working in kitchens and just work their way up. There's a lot of people who, they don't take it to the next level where they want to go to maybe a fine dining or like a Michelin star type of establishment. But there's plenty of people, just working in a local Italian food place in Long Island, say, for example, that could
Right.
probably outcook some of these people working in a Michelin star kitchen. They're just guys that are like I worked with one guy when I picked up like a Sunday prep shift or something. Sunday morning, I just went in to help prep some stuff or whatever. And there was this one guy who's maybe like a 40 or 50-year-old Mexican gentleman, and he was literally like, I've never seen somebody peel a potato this fast in my life. It was just incredible. Like the way he would break down giant snow crab legs, like just insane speeds. And that guy, again, never went to culinary school, but
Right.
he was faster than any of the former culinary students that I was working with on the line, or even some of the the chefs, the sous chefs, whatever. So yeah, it's definitely not all about the schooling. I don't necessarily regret going to culinary school, but it's absolutely not a necessary requirement.
Be a
So
cool party
I just
trick.
I
Get him a
just think about
potato.
like the reps, like how many
Yeah.
fucking potatoes has that guy peeled in his life?
Yeah, that plays a big role. It's
Hundreds
like
of
that's
thousands, yeah.
sometimes that actually carries more weight. You know.
Yeah. Joe, you've cooked. In the pre-show, we were catching up and talking about your famous ribs that you've cooked for us. Do you have? I hate the word favorite, but do you have like a favorite dish you like to cook? Do you have a favorite dish you like to eat?
I do like to. So my favorite things to cook are kind of in this similar vein to like the ribs or any sort of like a slow cook or like a boiled like type of stew. One of my favorite dishes that I actually learned in culinary school is like a braised lamb shank.
Mm.
I still haven't been able to make that for you guys because the time I think we went to 3 different supermarkets. We couldn't find lamb shank.
Lamb. Yeah, that seems like
But
Yeah, we used beef shank.
yes, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was close enough. But those are, I think, some of my strongest things. I do also like making homemade gnocchi. It's another recipe I learned in culinary school how to make that. That feels more like a labor of love, like making that dough, letting it sit in the fridge. Even just like baking the potatoes to make that dough, it's a very long process, and that's up there on my top 5 favorite things to make probably. What was the other part of the
What do you
question?
like to eat? Like
Oh,
dish, cuisine?
um, I like to eat everything, man. That's a big part of probably why I got into this. Is I just always enjoyed, um, I just enjoy good food, and I wanted to be able to make it. But I definitely have a soft spot for Japanese cuisine. I think after working at Morimoto and just Asian cuisine in general, I really enjoy Thai food, sushi, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite too. We're big Asian cuisine. That's probably our takeout. It's funny, like right when you grow up, you're like ordering takeout pizza or maybe like American Chinese food. Yeah, right. Like whatever, and now I'm getting sushi and ramen and like.
Hey man, I still love me some Chen's Kitchen though.
Yeah, listen, man,
Plug for
feed you.
Chen's Kitchen right here. You think they have any social media presence?
They they have new owners now.
What?
You didn't know
I
that?
know
Though?
that.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's a tough topic.
Oh god.
We got to unpack this at a later date.
Yeah,
Brett
we'll
Cla-
talk about that in the after
Brett-
show.
Brett claims that he went in and demanded to, or he asked what happened to them, and that apparently the new owner is the sister of Sally. This is per Brett. So
Per Brett, the reliable historian himself. But going back to these slow meats, I've been getting into the slow meats as well, the braising, the short ribs, the ossobuco, just because I feel like on the surface they seem intimidating, but really they're super easy, dude. It's just, you just like brown it, mirepoix, tomato paste, maybe some red wine, and then you just let it go for like 3 hours.
Park it.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so, just like they call it like a set it and forget it type of
exactly.
Thing.
Set it and forget it. I just got a Dutch oven not too long ago, and I've been loving it. It's not a Le Creuset or whatever that fancy brand is. It's Amazon Basics, but it gets the job done. Yeah, so that's your primary job right now is as a chef, but you've recently broken into the social media scene, creating this content empire called Yugi-Centric. Now,
yes.
we briefly spoke about it last week with Dean Siriaco, but I know you do a little bit different, as far as the spin goes. So, like, what's your role in the whole Yugi-Centric thing?
So mostly the thumbnail creation and video editing for the actual YouTube videos. Dean and I work on that together. We'll film the videos together. I'm largely editing them, creating the thumbnails and posting them on YouTube. Dean definitely has more of a heavy social media presence, promoting, doing giveaways and handling the, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, which is very important as well. But yeah, so mostly just basically the back end of once we film those videos together, cutting them up. And that's something that I've just over the last few months kind of taught myself just through kind of funny enough watching YouTube videos on how to make YouTube videos. But it's a great resource. Like it seems like like a weird sort of irony, but yeah, I've just kind of taught myself
you
through.
can learn anything on YouTube nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. So you do the thumbnails, you do the video editing. What exactly is a thumbnail?
Thumbnail is just like
to ask this, but I've been embarrassed to ask it.
So it's literally just the square image when you go onto the YouTube homepage. The image of the video that you're clicking on. That's just referred to as
like. Now that I think about it, that's like the first thing that you see. The title of the video.
It's extremely important. There's a lot of psychology that goes into that. The title is important, but yeah, for the most part, you're looking at that thumbnail before you even start to read the title of what the video is about. That thumbnail has to, in the simplest way possible. It can't be too cluttered and loud or whatever. It needs to get across exactly what the viewer is going to be getting into in that video, and grab them to the point where they're willing enough to even read the title and then, of course, ultimately click on the video. So.
Right, I guess we're just bombarded with so many images throughout our day, especially, we have computers, right, and we're always on YouTube and stuff like that, and Twitter, and we're just constantly scanning, right?
Mhm.
And if we see something that we like, we go towards it. So yeah, a lot of responsibility comes to the thumbnail. So I'm glad you got a good fit for that. I know, there's been talk about you creating some content for the podcast, creating thumbnails, using your special talents for that. But
Yeah.
going back to learning things from YouTube, Justin, do you have any random things you'd like to share with us that you learned from YouTube? Don't be embarrassed. They can be some ridiculous things.
I mean, I learned a lot about my finance, like education. Like,
Boo.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of boring, but it's, sometimes you don't have people around you that you can ask some questions. It's good to learn about just some financial literature. It's also just, I don't know, like I had to put, I had to go, I had to go clean my sinks. I had a dual sink in my master bath, and they were getting clogged. So instead of calling a plumber and paying who knows what, YouTube it, bought a $10 tool. Was a pain in the ass for 3 hours, but like got it done. Hasn't leaked since, which is pretty good. So now I consider myself an amateur plumber, which is great. So I can get myself in trouble.
That's pretty good.
But I don't, dude. Everything, like everyone, anytime someone says like I don't know how to do this, like just Google it. Like someone has probably asked the same question.
Right.
Somewhere.
Either YouTube or Reddit or
Someone's out
exactly.
there.
Like you're not that unique. Whatever you're doing is not that unique. That nobody else has been like, how do I do this?
No, and Dom, I think we talked about this. Reddit is like an insane resource. Like super. If you want something like very specific, I've found things that I never thought someone else would have the same problem as me or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, sometimes even better than YouTube. YouTube is nice because it'll put it in a video format, like hands-on kind of show you. But yeah, we live in a.
I'm not very good at navigating Reddit. I don't know like all the subreddits and how to do that shit. But I'll just type in like if I'm looking for a restaurant, I'll be like best restaurants in Burlington. Reddit. Because if you don't, people can pay to be on the top of the Google reviews, right?
Yeah.
So it's like these hidden gems are probably not going to have the finance, to get thrown to the top. It's like you type in best restaurants and like Chili's comes up, and you're like, come on, like is that really the best restaurant in town?
Wait, speaking of best restaurants, you tell Joe about the new restaurant we found and then what happened to it?
Well, they opened back up.
Oh, okay, we're good.
All right. So Joe, whenever Justin comes up, we go to some nice restaurants in Burlington, and there's been some pretty good ones. So, we found a couple that we really like, and, maybe like the last, 10 that I've been to, I'd be like, it's okay. It's not like a showstopper. But I found this one, not through Reddit, through 7 Days Vermont, which is kind of like this, I don't know, it's like a newspaper, like an online newspaper, and it has a bunch of shit, and it'll have like best restaurants, like best new restaurants. So what I was doing is I was just going through the years, and it was like the top 5 best new restaurants. So I found one, I think it was from 2022. It was a place called Mayday, and it was a fantastic meal. Like the food was incredible. It was small portions that are meant to be shared.
Dude, but it wasn't like
I know exactly. Yeah.
Like other places, Joe, that's in right now, right? Real in like small portions.
Yeah. Which I get, because they want you to sample all the food that they have. I get it. But it's like, don't make me pay $100 each to not be full, So Mayday, they had these small portions, but we got these wings, and it was 8 jumbo wings. They're fucking big.
Delicious.
The wings were great.
Was this like a tasting menu type of thing, or just
no,
like tapas, like small?
Menu. Yeah, it was supposed to be like tapas, but they weren't really tapas.
They're shareables. They get like shareable plates. Yeah, that's like in now.
I guess ideally 3 people would share it, but you probably couldn't have more than that on a plate. But
or 2 mazzas.
Yeah, or 2 mazzas. Yeah, definitely not 3 mazzas though. But the food is phenomenal. The cocktails are incredible, and I don't really go gaga for cocktails. I like me a cocktail, but I'm not going to be like, damn, that shit was good. These were good.
Yeah, we had 4 different ones too.
Yeah, we each had 2 cocktails, and the service was on point. And I was like, damn, like that. And we had great conversation. And I feel like, once you have that magic combo of good food, good service, good cocktails, and good convo, you're going to be just having great things to say about that restaurant. Then a week later, I follow them on Instagram. A week later, they closed down. I don't know why. It was kind of sketchy why they closed down. They said they had a flood in the kitchen. I feel like somebody really fucked up that it was like bad enough that they had to close the restaurant for like a month. But then they reopened, and now they're back in business. So I'm excited to
We're going
go
back.
on back. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, it was better than we tried this other place called Poco, which is like another like small plates, that you're supposed to share, and it
Fish
came highly
sauce
recommended.
heavy.
Yeah, we got this
Just
pork
heavy
belly.
on the fish sauce.
Yeah, dude, it was so fishy. Like Lindsay was like basically gagging, and we're just like, damn. And like, it's unfortunate because that's the persona now that we have of that restaurant. Like,
Yeah.
it could have had 4 great dishes, but then this one dish was just fucking fish sauce central. And we're just like never going back.
We sprinted there in the pouring rain. Like there's
Yeah,
always a
that was
story
kinda fun.
behind there. So. Yeah, that was fun. Yeah.
Justin learned that Uber and Lyft don't really work in Burlington.
Yeah, you have to wait for a while. Actually, I just watched the Super Pumped on Netflix with Jordan Levitt. What the hell's his name? Jason
Jordan
Levitt. There you go.
JDL, baby.
Phenomenal. Great show. Gotta take a look.
I never heard of that.
We're totally off topic. I'm gonna bring us back a little bit.
Bring us back in, eh?
We talked about Yugi-Centric. We've talked about being a chef. But recently you've started, right, another kind of side gig or extra job here. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so I am an overnight security supervisor. They're very. We don't have to go into specifics. They're very weird. I'm not going to say the company's name, whatever. They're very strange about like promoting on social media, like especially in like uniform, whatever. It's not that serious of a thing, but yeah. So it's an overnight security gig, and it's not bad, honestly. It's the hours are weird. Like I literally have to go into work. I have to be there 3 hours from now at midnight. So your sleep schedule is completely messed up. It's just something you never. I don't think your body ever gets used to. Even as long as I've been doing it now, you don't get used to working a midnight shift. Like,
yeah,
it's like 12 a.m. till 8 a.m. The way I do it is I'll come home at 8 a.m. and I don't know if it's just like the relief of getting out of work that I get this burst of energy. So I'll stay up. Some people they come home from a midnight shift, whatever, they go straight to bed, sleep from 8 a.m. till the afternoon and get up when the sun's still up. To me, that's kind of weird. I prefer kind of staying up once I get home and try to ride it out till like the afternoon so that I can go to bed and sleep a straight like 6 to 8 hours instead of breaking up your sleep where, you go to bed at 8 a.m., wake up in the afternoon, then like by the time you have to go to work, you're going to want to lay back down again. And it just, unfortunately, sleep doesn't work that way where it adds up. If you do 3 hours and then 3 hours later, it doesn't add up to 6 hours of sleep. So I try to fight through the tired and sleep that straight, whatever it is, 5-6 hours.
Yeah. Dude, I hear so many people like around our age, like multiple jobs or side gigs, and I think it's just like either life's expensive or we just need to, maybe people want more flex. I mean, it's common, man, to have multiple jobs nowadays, right?
Yeah. And something you kind of touched on earlier too with the like financial literacy, whatever on YouTube. That is another technically a side hustle that I picked up all the way back during COVID as well, was learning about the financial markets. And I wouldn't necessarily constitute it as day trading, but the main thing that I do is I basically watch the overall markets, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, and I will trade or basically swing trade options where I'm buying option contracts and holding on to them for a day to a week or 2 weeks or something like that. And that's something that I kind of just self-taught myself as well. I've taken a bunch of online classes and things like that. So that's something since basically the COVID era, everybody and their mother thought they were, high stakes day trader, whatever. But
it's easy to make money going up into the right.
Most of those people have either completely destroyed their accounts or they just gave up on it. I've stuck around, and it's something that I still continue to do. Are
you selling covered calls? What are you selling?
No, I'm mostly buying either puts or calls. So if I'm trying to essentially go short the market, I'll buy puts or buy calls if I think it's going up. But yeah, so that's something that I still kind of do as I would consider a very much side sort of a hustle. It's in a way like a hobby. I enjoy it, and it's something that I still do. I keep up with on YouTube, watching financial content and things like
That's
that.
good.
So,
Maybe we should exchange. So Dom, so an option. It's literally like an opportunity to buy a stock at a given time, and you can do it. Hey! Options. I'm learning about options myself, right? So, options can be risky, like out there if you don't do it right. And my advice to everyone is always, if you're trading options, it's okay to, if you lose the money, be okay to lose that money. Like, don't.
We're not financial advisors.
Yeah, I always got to caveat
You
there.
got to throw that in there. So look, with those, I'm never exercising the options. I'm basically using them just as a trade, Justin.
Right.
Yeah.
It's cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's good that, like, it's good. It's nice to hear you, and Dom and I will talk a lot of financial literacy. I think as you start growing an income, you're like, what do I do with this money? And then also, how do I gain money? Like in this thing called the stock market, right? It's such a weird concept to a lot of people because we don't learn in school. Like, unless you go for finance, you're not learning basic financial concepts, which is crazy. You don't know how to write a check. You don't know how to pay, how to read a credit statement. Like, it's kind of scary.
I still Google how to write a check. Even though I have to write one every month. My apartment's so antiquated that they don't have an online portal.
Ridiculous.
Which is kind of crazy.
Let me get ACH.
Yeah, I think I look it up every time.
I have one check left from my original checkbook that I got.
Oh, I've lost that multiple times.
First opened up my bank.
Dad yells at me all the time. He's like, "You don't know how to write a check?" I'm like, "You mean the one?"
Mine still has mom's name on it.
Oh my god!
But you can get like cool checks. You can get like Monopoly boards and shit. I'm gonna get fancy with mine. Maybe I'll get the podcast emblem on it. That'd be pretty cool.
Getting ahead of ourselves. I love it.
Can we do that? I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to our producer, Mr. Siriaco.
Yes. You talking about stickers?
No, checkbooks.
Yes.
With the life stickers. Yeah.
Have it.
Technically, technically yes.
Yeah, you can put any image you want.
We'll save it for the after notes.
But I trademarked the logo because I created it.
How do you?
That's our producer.
It's owned by the Skippers View LLC.
Did you YouTube it? How to trademark something?
No, I didn't actually trademark it. I'm just kidding. But I do own your name and likeness. But yeah,
appreciate it. Dom, what else you got for us?
Wait, does anyone know what that's from? Because it is my name.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah, what is it?
You guys all read it, Tyler, Dean.
I
think it's the Crucible.
You
think it's the Crucible?
I actually don't think they made us read that in Kellenberg.
You didn't have to read that in school?
I don't think so. Or at least I didn't read it. Not me.
The old days of Spark.
I'm looking for my checkbook. I don't even know where it is.
All right. Well, this has been good. I want to end on a little bit more serious note. Hold on. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Because it is my name. Tyler, can you read out that sentence for us, all of it in the voice that you would imagine that guy saying it is?
Because it is my name. Because I cannot have another in my life. Because I lie and sign myself to lies. Because I am not worth the dust and the feet of them that hang. How am I to live without my name? I have given you my soul. Leave me my name.
That's not bad.
Beautiful.
John Proctor. Yeah, that was. Yeah, let's get a little. Very good. Very good. All right. So, last topic, Joe, and I wanted to bring this up because we have a pretty close group. All of us back in the old Willie P. And we kind of have a similar story where we had to really experience some family hardships. I think you were around the same age. That I was when my mom passed. And Justin and myself, our mom passed 2013 maybe. So I think I was 19 and Justin was 21, and then your parents got divorced.
Yeah,
Probably
it was
around
right
the
around the
same
same
time,
time. It
right?
was like freshman year of college, 2012, 2013 ish.
Right. Yeah. And I've talked about this with people where I feel this more sense of connection with other people who have experienced like these really traumatic things in their lives. Like, I'm not trying to downplay, other people's trials and tribulations, but if you lost a parent or you went through like a pretty messy divorce in your family, like you have like a kind of a different understanding, that you can't really read about or you can't replicate. You just have to like go through it. But nonetheless, I remember you said something to me, way back when it was happening that obviously really struck a nerve because I still bring it up today. And it was that when your parents were going through divorce, it made you see them as people instead of like these almighty beings as your parents.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember having that conversation with me,
I
but
do, and I'm
that
like, I'm actually surprised that you remember. I didn't know if that resonated that much with you,
yeah.
but I didn't know that was something so profound. I just thought, I don't know. I thought maybe at the time when I said that to you, I thought maybe that was just like common sense, and I was just saying something dumb. But yeah, no, I'm glad that resonated that much. Surprised you
Yeah,
still
because
remember
I
that.
mean, I think it is a really important understanding to come to because we grow up and our parents are our first teachers, and luckily like most of us and our friends had a pretty good family, a pretty good upbringing, um and we learn so much from our parents, right? And we kind of model our lives after them, and then there comes a point in our whatever young adult life, or maybe when we're even older, that we're like, oh, like that was like weird that like my dad used to do that, or that my mom would like think of like that, or like she's like jealous. And um I think going through an experience like that kind of speeds up that process that
Yeah,
sometimes people just never have that experience.
yeah. No, I think it is definitely like in a way like I'm glad that I had that experience because yeah, like you said, when you're a kid, your parents are your first teachers, sometimes your only teacher. And just in general, as a kid, I think you look at anybody older than you as like, well, like I have to listen to what they say, or they must be right because they're older than me, they're an adult. Like
Right.
why would they be wrong about something? And yeah, as you get older, whatever through basically whatever means it ends up happening for you in your life, I think eventually you do start to realize that most people in the world they're flawed. Like not there's nobody who's perfect. There's a bunch of imperfect people, and nobody has all the answers. Basically, is kind of the conclusion that I kind of came to, and it's something I've experienced recently. I want to say maybe after the point of like 25, 26 in my professional life was I don't know, you could go even deeper and say maybe this is like childhood trauma. I don't know if everyone has this same experience, but for me, I felt the same way even with people who maybe had more experience with me who were older than me in my field or at any particular job where I I still viewed myself, I think, as a kid. So I just kind of took whatever they said in stride and just wanted to, appease them or like, oh yes, like they're my boss, so like I have to listen and this and that. And I think like I said, once I got past the age of like 25, 26, I started to view myself more as an adult. As going at that point, some people are going to think this sounds silly, but going downhill or getting closer to the age of 30, I'm like, wait a second, like I'm kind of old now. Like I need to demand the respect of a full grown adult from other people because that's what I am now. And I think once I started viewing myself more as an adult, I started to expect more, from other people, demanding a little bit more respect, and basically the same in the same vein as with my parents, viewing myself as their equal, as opposed to I'm just a kid who works here and I have to basically listen to what they say. So I don't know if you guys have had that experience in your professional life. as well.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's a recent update with that's kind of struck me.
Yeah, I mean, I think both, Justin and I are pretty young for our fields, and we have a phrase in my line. I don't know if you guys have heard like imposter syndrome before. You
Yeah,
guys use
yeah,
that term? Yeah. And I feel that all the time, and I have a friend who just accepted his position at a new clinic, right near me, and he's a year older, and he's like, I had the biggest imposter syndrome for this first couple of days, just because you're young, especially if you look young too. Like, my line, like, right, you're a doctor. If you look like you're 22, like no facial hair, like people are gonna be like, what the fuck? This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Or like,
yeah,
how old can he be? How many years experience can he have? So I think it's just uh breaking through that, it's just some barrier that we put up for ourselves, really. And it's
yeah,
like we're just casting these, we're thinking that these people are doubting us of our capabilities because of our age or our experience or whatever. But they're probably not at all, like they don't even think about it like that. But we're just
yeah,
creating this illusion for it.
yeah. No, it's like, yeah, exactly like you said. Like, I think people then pick up on that, and it's kind of like what you're putting out there by your sort of unsureness, or like not being confident in yourself. People pick up on that, and they'll kind of pounce all over you for it, basically.
That big
So
dick energy.
yeah,
Well, it goes with like I guess we'll say the patient and the client focus, right? On that side, the customer focus, whatever you want to be. But also when you start having to lead teams, I've made that transition over the last few years where I'm leading now the 22 to 28-year-olds or whatever it is. And I'm like, holy shit, like I'm not too far removed from this, right? Like when did that transition just happen?
yeah,
And it, yeah, listen, you learn, you grow, you figure out what your style is as well. Like I'm helping companies, guys who are double my age, like advising them, like, what the hell am I doing here? But then as, to Joe, kind of your point, as you approach 30 and then we're all going to eventually approach older, those like people start catching up and then you're starting to talk to peers, right? And colleagues more. And you're like, oh, this is like way more, I don't know, simpatico, right? It's like way more a little bit on your page. So just
yeah,
a growth path.
It is interesting being in that transitional period, and I'm in a similar role too, where we have this new resident, right? So like I have,
Yeah.
2+ years now on him, even though he's 10 years older than me. So it's like I'm
That's cool.
obviously still in this learning phase, but I'm like in this teaching phase as well. So it's fun to blend the two together. Joe, you said a couple great things beforehand. One of them I wanted to talk on was because it was about teachers, and like growing up, like you assume that like your elementary school teachers or your high school teachers like had it all figured out and like knew what they were talking about. And then as we get older, like our friends and our peers become teachers, and you're like, what the
Hey.
fuck, like that? No, you're an administrator, Dean. You're different. But they're just again, we're all winging it really, and
Yeah.
we're all just kind of learning on the go. No one teaches us any life skills that were needed. It just comes from. That's why they call them life skills, right? Because you acquire them from living. So
just from living. Yeah,
yeah, I can't get a little little
Well,
clap.
clap. You want
Thank you guys. Thank you
oh,
guys.
he said it. He said the name.
Justin, I signed up for Apple TV because I just bought this new MacBook that I'm recording this on. It's
nice
like driving me
lasso?
shit's amazing. But yeah, I got back into Ted Lasso, and who's the nerdy guy with the glasses who's like on the team, or he's like he's like the assistant for the main lady. He has
Oh,
like all the
Higgins.
kids. Yeah, Higgins. Yeah. So he was talking with Jamie Tart, and he's just like, because Jamie Tart like has a shithole of a dad. So he's like, oh, like parents are interesting. He's like, I'm appreciative for the things they are, and I forgive them for the things they're not.
Mm.
And I'm like, damn, that's a good little one-liner. There's a lot of good one-liners.
Yeah. That show's so quotable. It's amazing. I'll tell you, like, I know, and maybe Joe, I'm curious. You ever hear about the love languages? Does that sound familiar if I say the love language?
Yeah, like Spanish and French, like those.
So,
No,
so
words of
That's Romance
affirmation.
languages. Never mind.
say again, Dom.
like words of affirmation.
Yeah. So like, it's the way people show love and the way you want to receive love. I think there's
Oh,
six
okay,
times.
yeah.
It's like,
is this like science, or did somebody just like make?
I don't
this
know,
up
man.
one
It's
day?
like,
Something I see on like Instagram, people say
Yeah,
my
yeah,
love
it's like the
language is
new
food.
horoscope.
listen. Hold on. I learned about it years ago. It's like, right, words of affirmation, acts of kindness, gift giving, physical touch. There's basically everyone likes
Quality
different
time.
ways. Quality time. Yeah, everyone
I
likes
think
different ways.
everybody likes physical touch.
Hey yo, depends. It's
Hey yo!
but I
We're a
learned
kids
about
show.
this.
We're a kids show.
I
Are
learned
we?
about this a while ago, and it helped me. In all honesty, it helped me cope, Dom, with going down to one parent and realizing like our parents show love differently, and then you expect them to pick up the signs that you're missing, right? So if one person is quality time, and then all of a sudden you lose that parent, how does the other one fill in? And it really interesting for me. Like, it helped me understand not only the parent dynamic, but like my friend dynamic, and even like work dynamic, right? Like, yeah, words about, like, I don't give a crap about words of affirmation. Like,
Oh,
you
here
don't
we
need to tell me you're proud of me or anything. It doesn't mean anything for me. But acts of service, or go wash the dishes if they're dirty or something like that. So it's something that resonated with me, and it helped me like understand the parent dynamic a bit. So I don't know, Dom, if it's science, but it's helpful.
It's on verywellmind.com, so it might be.
It sounds okay. It's not WebMD, but
WebMD is not too bad, to be honest. I think it gives you a good little snippet of what you're looking for.
yeah.
Tyler or Dean, what's your love language?
What do you mean?
How do you like to be loved?
You just
Oh.
had the list pulled up.
Oh, I thought you meant. I don't know what I meant.
Dark magician girl.
French.
Yeah. I guess physical touch. Although I'm told I'm not a hugger. I don't like if receiving gifts. If it's like a nice like Yu-Gi-Oh pack.
I feel like you like receiving gifts and you like giving gifts.
Yeah, I like to. You're kind of like what's the guy in the Christmas Carol? Stooge. Scrooge. Yeah, you're kind of like Scrooge. Well, you
kind of fogged.
Yeah, you used to be at least. Like, you kind of like hated gift giving for a while.
I
You're
just
back-
didn't
you're
like
back
the
on the
amount of
gift giving.
pressure that people.
Yeah,
And
you're
then
right.
I know.
Dom has turned a corner on gift giving.
Yeah, because I realized that people like gifts. You sue me.
Sue
What?
them.
I improved. What? Is that bad?
Joe, what do you think? How about you?
I do enjoy. I do like the feeling of, and again, I mean, you could go deep with this and say like it's in a way it is more selfish. The feeling of giving gifts, I do enjoy that, but it's more like you obviously get it as the giver. You do get a good feeling out of that. So I do enjoy giving someone a good gift that, like, if I buy a Christmas gift that I know someone's gonna love, I'm like, antsy to give it to them like the day that I buy it. Like, can't wait
home
till
run.
yeah, real home run. Every piece of shit's a classic in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I do enjoy the gift giving aspect. I don't know if that was one of the ones specifically on the list.
That
You guys
is,
just
yeah.
said that.
Yeah,
And
it's so like I hear what you're saying about the self, but so it's interesting because you can want to receive love one way, but also you could express love a different way. Like maybe your thing, I don't know, is words of affirmation. I don't know.
Yeah, I know that makes a lot of sense, because I was going to say I don't necessarily enjoy receiving gifts as much. Like, in a way, it almost feels like awkward to me. I'm just like, I don't know what to, I don't know what to do with my hands. No, I just, like receiving gifts. Like, of course, I appreciate it, and it's a nice gesture. But I definitely prefer giving them. If that makes sense. I don't know. I guess maybe, the way I like receiving it would be physical touch as well.
You and Tyler, huh?
Yeah.
long fingers. Tyler, remember when I bought you and Joe some Yu-Gi-Oh boxes?
Yeah,
Yes, I remember that.
I love that.
That was pretty cool, right?
I like giving gifts more than receiving gifts. Yes, I do like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you're screwed. It's just for a while you're like, I just don't like the idea of like
I
having
heard
to
you
give
call me screwed.
having
No,
to give
dude,
gifts on
called you
Christmas.
stooge. Called you an idiot.
Stooge and the Stodge. You know, I just got back into the bear just when they said Stodge, so I knew what that term meant.
Oh.
Season 3, and
That's one
officially announced.
I was going to bring that up earlier when you asked that question, Justin.
Yeah.
That's one I still have not watched, but everybody kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you either love it or you hate it. Like, there's some really polarizing opinions on it. I think.
Yeah, I mean, no, go ahead.
The character development's good. It's you kind of actually like start to hate the main characters a bit, and you're like, I want to learn about other, which is kind of fun that they do that in the show.
I like the pastry chef guy.
Yeah, everyone loves him. Yeah, the first episode of season 2 is great.
What about
Yeah,
Triple
so not
D?
to-
You guys like Triple D?
Yeah,
Who?
that's a totally different speed of
You
show.
Diamond,
but
Drive-ins and Dives? Is that what it's
Yeah.
called?
that is gangster.
Right now,
Dude,
Diamond, Drive-ins and
money.
Dives.
I would love a book of like Guy Fieri. What are those called? Idioms? Idiisms? What's that term?
Yeah,
Euphemisms.
like
Euphemisms. Yeah, euphemism.
I don't know if that's.
No, I think euphemism is like sexual. No,
Euphemism.
Whoa.
Yeah, like connotation. What's
No,
that?
what's the word?
Tyler, pull it up. Jamie, pull it up.
Yeah. So not to dive back into a whole can of worms, that is something I wanted to talk about earlier when that question of the TV and movies, whatever, came up. One thing I don't love is like the glorification that like, and it's there's been for a while TV shows and movies and stuff about the culinary industry, but I don't like the glorification of like the hardships, which again, I haven't watched The Bear, but all the scenes I see is just him stressed out, smoking a cigarette in the back alley and like screaming at people and whatever. And I think it makes it like sexy for people, and that's why so many people are so interested. They're like, when they hear that, they're like, "Oh wow, you're a chef. I always wanted to do that," or whatever. And it's like, no, you don't. Trust me. Like, you do not. It's not fun. It's not good money for the most part, and you're busting your ass basically. And like ultimately, it never gets easier. Even once you make it to the higher, head chef, executive chef type of level, and that's something that I think. That happens with everything. Maybe I take it more personally just because I've been in it, but they definitely glorify those sort of things on TV, and in a way where it's like it's edgy and it's cool to be a chef.
Like
and I have friends, and I have friends who are still kind of like in that mentality of like they enjoy in almost like kind of like a sick way. They like enjoy the fact that like, oh, I got my ass kicked today. Like, can't wait to go back in there again. And to that point, actually, with my class in culinary school, a lot of the people there were ex-military veterans, and I think there's something to be said about that because they, in some way, I think enjoy that, like that hard, like disciplinary and just sort of that regimented, like strict environment. But I think in some ways, to the point I'm trying to get at, I think the industry in some ways needs to change from that toxic sort of way that it operates. There are some things, whether it be like Hollywood or even like people who are in it that are still glorifying it in a way, or think that it's like it's cool, or like this is what it's supposed to be like. In my opinion, I don't think it has to be that way. So just like I said, we don't have to go back into the whole chef talk thing, but that's something I wanted to talk about earlier. Just like it's basically my complaints about. I don't want to make the whole thing my complaints about the industry, but that's what it is.
Wow, that's a good perspective. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
that's a good podcast name, Chef Talk.
We have enough podcasts.
There's actually an Instagram page called Chef's Talk that I follow. So
Christina's going to be wondering, by the way, why this episode's so long. So I just want it to be known that it's for the watch time.
I think we're just having convo,
Yeah, I don't know.
Chill the boys.
It's your cousin
Drinking the
that's doing
Groonies.
critiquing it.
I can't wait for the live episode that we're gonna put out. I wonder how that setup's gonna look.
What do you mean?
Well,
The live stream?
Oh,
Doing a
Thanksgiving?
live recording.
Fuck it, we're doing it live.
I mean, I have the mixer. I just need to get a couple microphones for it.
We could discuss it in the after show notes. But yeah, why don't we wrap it up? You know, I think we exhausted Joe as much as we could. You know, he took us through a lot of journeys, and you know, this was just a great conversation. So, Joe, thank you so much for being on here.
Yeah, it was my pleasure.
Do you have any? Do you have any quick advice for someone who wants to elevate their at-home cooking game? You know, maybe some like tools that they should get, or some like cookware. You know, just keep it basic though.
Yeah, in like a general sense, I mean, your best friend as at a home cook or professional chef is going to be your knife. And that's something that until I went to culinary school and learned how to sharpen knives and bought myself a fancy Damascus steel Japanese knife and all this stuff. I'm not saying you necessarily have to do that, but definitely people at home. I grew up in a house where my parents bought a set of knives in the 1990s and literally never sharpened them until this day. Like, we still have some of the same, and it's just, I never realized, like, until I got a good knife and sharpened it, all that, like, it's like, oh my, it's so easy to cut like a carrot or something. Like,
Right.
It was just like struggling for most of my life with these dull knives at my house. So get yourself a sharp knife, learn how to sharpen them. Again, YouTube is a great resource. You can do it with a Japanese whetstone, or every once in a while. You don't have to do it all the time, but take it somewhere, maybe get it sharpened. It'll just make your life so much easier for all the different sort of things you're trying to do. And yeah, that would be a big help. I guess, like, to get a little bit maybe more specific, I would say something I see a lot of people do whenever you're cooking, just make sure you're using the proper oil for whatever sort of thing you're trying to do, because a lot of people, I don't know if people realize, like, oils, different types of oils or fats like butter have different smoke points, where like extra virgin olive oil and butter are going to burn much quicker than your canola or your vegetable oil, something like that. So if you're trying to fry a chicken cutlet or something like that, you're not going to use, obviously, I don't know if I have to say this, but you're not going to use butter, but don't use extra virgin olive oil either, because it's going to burn much quicker, and that will, alter the taste in an unpleasant sort of a way. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe just let your meats kind of come to room temperature before you cook them. That's another thing that, like, again, to get on a personal note, I've seen family members literally take frozen meats out of the freezer and throw them in a pan, and it's just like, but even if the meat's defrosted and whatever, and it's been in the refrigerator, I think that's a small thing that a lot of people don't realize is your refrigerator is running basically somewhere between, I think it's like 30, 40 degrees, or maybe in the 40s. But that's a big difference from room temperature, where if you're trying to cook something like a steak, it'll actually affect the precision of whatever temperature you're trying to cook it to. When I say temperature, I'm referring to the scale of medium rare, all that stuff. What restaurants will do is, you'll have a bunch of steaks sitting out. That might sound unappealing to some people, but that's kind of just what you have to do when you're firing off so many things at a time. But even at home, if you're going to cook a steak, leave it out on the counter for 30, 40 minutes, let it come to room temperature, and you'll be able to nail it basically a lot easier to the precise medium rare, whatever you're trying to get it at.
Great.
That's just like a little.
All really good tips. I don't know how to sharpen my knife, but I found some lady that can sharpen my knife, and she charges like $10 or $15 for a knife. So I just go like twice a year. I bring my chef's knife, she sharpens it, and shit cuts like butter. So
yeah, I think that's well worth it. Like,
yeah, me too. All right, great. Well, I think that'll do it for us. Justin, you have any closing remarks?
No, it was awesome, Joe. Thanks for coming on, man. I think cool background, cool knowing just about the industry as a whole. So this was fun.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Cool. You're welcome back anytime, Joe.
Thank you.
All right.